That's another one of my bona fides, is that in 2010, at the height of the recession, my wife and I and my speaking business dropped off 80%, boom, overnight. And we lost everything that we'd accumulated for 25 years in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And I was the one handling the money, so, and my wife's pain was what was killing me. If I'd been single, I think I could have gotten through it, but I had an itch on the roof of my mouth I could only scratch with the front sight on that nickel-plated 38 with the hammer back. I told it to a friend of mine. He goes, "Why didn't you pull the trigger?" I said, "Could you try to sound a little less disappointed?" Because here's why I didn't pull the trigger. I had $1 million in life insurance. But every life insurance policy has a suicide clause, 2 years. And so if you kill yourself in the first 2 years, they return the premiums, but that's it. And I didn't know how long I'd had the policy. A lot of people think when you're suicidal, your rational brain is vacated the premises. No, that guy I showed you wanted me dead, but the rational part of my brain refused to allow that to happen, to leave my wife not only brokenhearted, but destitute. So I called my insurance agent. And we're great actors, I'm chit-chatting away, you know. "Oh, just offhand, by the way, how long have I had that life insurance policy?" I can hear him clicking on the keys. He comes back on and goes, 22 months, and no, don't do it. Not the first time he'd had that conversation. Had lost clients who had a policy that was older than 2 years. He goes, "You had 22 months, and don't do it." So if I'd pulled the trigger at 22 months, my wife would have gotten the premiums back. But so I had 2 months to wait. And by then, the pressure had lifted a bit. Bankruptcy gone through, so the pressure was off. Phone calls had stopped, and got one last phone call. The guy goes, "You got to pay." And I go, "You know what the best thing about bankruptcy is?" He goes, "I don't know." Click, because you don't have to talk to them anymore. So, spoiler alert, I didn't pull the trigger, and I made it past that. And I began to slowly climb up. We worked really hard for the last 8 years to recover financially, which we have. It's one of those things that makes a marriage stronger or blows it completely apart. And it actually made our marriage stronger. It also allows you, if there's an upside, it allows you to drill down to what you need to survive, not what you want. You know, you need a house, you need, a car, you need food, clothing. So, matter of fact, we got a great bankruptcy attorney, filed here in Washington, and used the laws of what the state you're in when you file. Washington has a $125,000 homestead exemption, meaning if you have less than $125,000 in your primary residence in equity, they can't make you sell it. And we had like a 121.9. So they couldn't force us to sell a little house down in Eugene. So, otherwise we would have had no place to go. It was such an emotional thing for me that back in the day when I had a GPS, remember those stuck to the windshield? Had little icons on them, like gas. Always had a little house, said home. For months, when I would reach up to push that button for home, excuse me, I would get emotional because I had a home to go to. That's one of the silver lines of bankruptcy. You figure it out exactly what it is. And I mean, it was a tough time. I mean, my wife's aunt bought us a subscription to the newspaper, a daily subscription we didn't have money for. We couldn't fix the roof. It was hanging in there, but it was 25 years old. I'm in the backyard one day, cutting the grass, and one of the shingles on the roof just gave up and hit me in the back of the head. And I couldn't tell my wife, because we were saving money for the roof. And it was a couple months before we could be able to do it, because if I told her that a tile had jumped off the roof by itself, she wouldn't have slept a wink until we had it fixed. And then we got the roof done. First thing, we refinanced the mortgage. First normal thing we've done. Got enough money to put a new roof on it. And again, I pulled that driveway and I looked at the new roof and wept, because that's how far we'd come back, because we could actually afford to put a roof on the house. Anyway, empathy. In terms of dealing with somebody who has a mental illness, the sympathy is easy. Empathy is much more difficult, because it's hard for me. I can't describe to you how bad, how deep and dark the hole I was in is, or was. I work on the cruise ships. I get wretchedly seasick. And if there's anybody in here who gets seasick, then you know exactly how bad that is. But if you've never been seasick, I cannot describe to you just how awful that feeling is. Depression and mental illness is like that. I cannot really get across to you. I said to my wife one time, if you could walk around my head for like 5 minutes when I'm in that hole, you'd come out screaming. People say when somebody dies by suicide, it's cowardly, because they don't know what an act of courage it is for all those years leading up to it to simply get out of bed in the morning, put one foot in front of the other, paste a smile on your face, and do what normal people do, and carry that around all day. Every day, if you have a mental illness, when you get out of bed, there's a rock and a hill. Some days the rock's small and the hill's not so steep. Some days the rock is big and the hill is steep, but there's always a rock and there's always a hill. And to have the courage. I mean, the days when I drag myself out of bed. I've actually turned to the bed after I made it and said to the bed, "Won't be long, I'll be back." And it talks to me all day long. "Oh, come on, Frank. Ozark, Netflix, let's binge watch. Come on, come back to bed." That's just because, there's a song, a rock and roll song, I cannot remember who did it, but the lyric is, "Sleep's the only freedom that she knows." That's, for me, that's why people crawl back in bed and close their eyes and hope to go to sleep and shut the world out.